Good morning to you. Time right now is 7:01, and we are following this breaking news out of UC San Diego, where, as you see right now, police are detaining several protesters. Pro-Palestinian encampment has been here for several days. This is a live look right now. This encampment now being torn down by officers. Multiple people have now been taken into custody. We've seen this over the past hour or so unfolding here on the UCSD campus right in front of the Gaza Library.
And this is probably the most resistance that we've seen now as we turn here to our 7 o'clock hour. We just before we left the CBS, went over here to the CW, we saw some of the protesters getting down on the floor, again, being put down on the floor by law enforcement before being taken into custody. You saw one person there being escorted by 2 officers. So it does appear that this last line, because this last line is up against that building back there, that this may be the group that probably may put up the most resistance. At least that's what we're seeing with our shots here as police officers begin to now sort of move over to the other side, maybe to assist again on another person here who may be arrested. But we have also confirmed from UC San Diego, one of their public relations representatives, that they are arresting these protesters.
Right. And it looks like the number of police officers that are out there, CHP officers, almost triple the number of protesters now, because quite a few, obviously, they're in line with officers right by their sides with zip ties on as they're waiting to be processed. So we're not sure what's happening to the many protesters who have already been taken away from the encampment site. But as you see right here, it looks like this last group that's still hanging there and standing their ground also being moved along. That was the intention all along for the chancellor, saying this encampment, it's time now for it to clear and protesters need to disperse.
A lot of these protesters had goggles on, they had masks on, and they were prepared for what could possibly ensue. Now you see, as officers put them in zip ties and handcuffs, they remove the goggles, they remove the handkerchiefs and masks that they had on their face. But this does look to be basically the tightest that we've seen the police get around these protesters, when an hour and a half ago, they had quite a wide circle. They had barely even started getting onto the encampment there. And now we've watched as one by one, at least a dozen, probably closer to 24 people have already been taken into custody, just about maybe 30, 40 feet from where we see this scene still unfolding.
Yeah, they've constricted that area. We want to get out to our Alex live now, who's been there this morning. She's live at this moment. Alex, what can you show us? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, as you can see, this line of protesters being detained has moved up into the process. I've just spoken to UC San Diego communications team. They give us some new information. These people are being processed right now for their arrest. They are the protesters that are being carried out of this protest by officers. As you can see, once they're put in zip ties, as Chris was saying, their masks removed, they are being added to this line, still chanting as they are being brought through. We also know that UCSD classes will be all remote. I asked how long this could be. They said at least today. They also said they will give us more information, like the number of people being processed, any more information similar to that. As soon as they get it, we will be getting that and sharing it with you shortly. So this is the line of people being detained right now. They're being processed. And, by the minute, more and more people are being added. And so, we'll pass it back to you guys, but there are fewer and fewer people on the encampment site as they are all being carried out in zip ties, added to this line of people being processed, of people being detained.
And Alex, from your vantage point, again, thank you for that live report there. We're trying to see again. We know we've had to confirm that they've been arrested. As you see on the left side of your screen here, before we get to what the chancellor is saying, this does appear to be a bit of movement here, some pushing and shoving here at this last line. We've seen this human wall as you see them conjoined there, this being probably the most resistant of the group that has been cleared here from this encampment. You can see a bit of a scuffle there, if you will, but so far things have somewhat de-escalated as police are going to be removing people from this area. This is something that they said would happen. They gave them time to clear out. This group has remained steadfast and said that they are not going to be moving, as they wanted to continue their protest here of the war that is ongoing right now in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. Again, on the pro-Palestine side, the pro-Palestinian side, this has been an encampment that has remained mostly peaceful up until this moment. And even then, this has not risen to the level that we've seen in other places throughout the country. Usually, once in handcuffs, these protesters have gone off peacefully. But it does look like this last group here is being the most resistant, if you will.
And we should emphasize that, I mean, in terms of violence, what we've seen is
Scuffling,
police officers
pushing,
pulling
shoving,
these
right.
protesters to the ground. We haven't seen any protesters acting violently toward any
No.
officers. But you see how one by one they're being pulled off of this group. And if you were joining us just about an hour and a half ago, this hadn't even begun. About an hour and a half ago was when officers kind of began a semicircle around this encampment. We saw a lot of activity of students who were in those tents starting to get out, starting to pull plywood off toward those essentially barriers.
Right.
And then just at about 7:15 was when we saw those first arrests take place.
Now, as far as UCSD, we've been waiting to hear from them this morning. We know the chancellor said yesterday it was time for this encampment to clear, and UCSD did warn of police activity here. So we do have a full screen. This is from the Vice Chancellor. The health and safety of all members of the Triton community is of paramount importance, and our focus remains squarely on maintaining a safe campus environment. That's the Senior Associate Vice Chancellor, Robert Continetti, who just released this statement. And, the campus did warn many students and staff as well of this police activity, saying UCSD's West Campus operation suspended from North Torrey Pines Road to Interstate 5 because of police activity, asking people to avoid the area. We know around UCSD, it does get very busy there on Torrey Pines and the 5. So you're advised to go around, try not to go by campus because of the many law enforcement officers who are there on scene now. Non-essential employees should move to remote operations. Essential employees can report to work as usual. And classes are now remote as of today. They just released that update this morning as well. And all of this unfolding in the last, we would say about 45 minutes is when more of the detainment, the taking people into custody really started. But at 5:45, when we were live on CBS 8, we saw that line of police officers across the walkway there in front of Gaza Library. And they were warning the encampment, the protesters, to disperse. It was time for them to move along. Those who decided to stay back, obviously are the ones that are now being taken in.
Yeah, it's not clear how many left, if at all, and again, how many have stayed. We are waiting for updated numbers. Now, we have this in from MTS. As we told you, classes went remote, but we did see on social media some folks reporting that bus stops were not in working service, and MTS has confirmed that. Due to police activity, the UC San Diego Central Campus trolley station is temporarily closed. Trains will bypass the station. The Gilman Transit Center is also closed, and buses are detouring around activity. So that is coming straight from MTS here in light of what we are seeing. Again, this police activity as we come back out here to this live picture. It does appear, I will say, that most of those who were inside of this encampment have been cleared out. It's really tough to tell right now because as that group has gotten smaller, law enforcement taking up much more of the picture, if you will. And so it's hard to see if there are any even left there behind. Mm-hmm. We do know that several of them have been taken into custody, have been arrested, according to UCSD. There's a small building right there behind them that we saw in Alex Lai's live shot where they are being taken. There's that long line of them as we pan now towards this. We should point out, again, this has been relatively a peaceful encampment, encampment clearing. We have not seen big clashes or violence between protesters and police. Once in handcuffs, we are seeing a lot of these protesters going along with law enforcement where it's likely they're being processed inside of this building. In fact, Alex, you're joining us live right now. Alex, what can you tell us about the building and maybe what you're hearing about what these protesters are doing next after they go inside?
Yeah, Chris, so we know that these protesters in this line are being processed for arrest. They have been detained. If you take a look behind me, we're going to see it looks like all of these protesters have been cleared. These are all officers, UC San Diego police, CHP officers, Sheriff County. They're all leaving this encampment site. As you can see, there are, still a number standing here, gathering, deliberating, possibly what steps to take next. But it does appear that all of the protesters have been removed, and there are no more people besides these officers up on these encampment sites. Some of them, are digging through these tents, surveying the scene, taking it all in. But it does appear that there are no protesters left. As far as what is happening to them next, they are in line being processed. They're in zip ties. They have been detained, and that is as far as we're seeing here. We are still seeing a number of people lined up on both sides of this encampment, still chanting. Some of the things they're chanting are peaceful protest. They are not in the encampment site. We did hear officers tell them that they would be arrested if they tried to get in, so they are still on the outside. A growing number of people out there. So that is what we're seeing right now. Officers are dispersing from the scene, and this line is moving. Can't say exactly how many people are here, but it is definitely dozens of protesters. I'll pass it back to you guys. We'll keep you updated.